I'm Lisa, and welcome to our second night of Discernment. We are here with Lenka Schulze, and she's going to continue our conversation. So thank you, Lenka, and we're looking forward to hearing the rest on Discernment.
Hello, everybody. So excited to continue on that topic that we had last week. And today we're going to be talking about discernment. Before we jump into that, of course, we would like to arrive. I guess that's a perfect word, arrive. And I would like to bring in the candle meditation just for a couple minutes to bring all our senses here, and we are fully and completely aware of our surroundings and ourselves. And so Brandon will put up the candle as we are taking our few moments to focus on the gaze of this light. Slow down our breathing. And your eyes are the windows of your soul. Your soul is now seeing the light and bringing awareness to the light within you. By acknowledging the light, your light is now growing and expanding and shining. Now bring an awareness to your breath, your inhales and exhales. Bring awareness to your chair or sofa you are sitting on. And ground yourself firmly in this present moment. Breathe and let go. Let go of distracting thoughts, things to do, places to be. And let go. See the light growing and expanding. And as you are completely surrounded by the pillar of light, as we share our own light and love in today's class. And so it is. Thank you. Before we jump into discernment, we do need to talk about the judgment. As much as I do not like necessarily jumping into the polarized world, in order for us to reach the higher level of consciousness and as discernment, we do need to bring in the judgment. And I always like to start with foundation and the foundation of words. So when I looked up the Webster Dictionary, I found that it is the process of forming an opinion or evaluation by discerning and comparing. So it really is a form of opinion. So judgment is a form of opinion. I want you to really think about that, because as long as you care what other people think of you, you are diminishing yourself to their standards. So again, opinions are judgment and judgments are opinions, only opinions. So I continue to look online what judgment stands for. And of course, there's 5 different ways it uses, for example, the informal and formal, the expressing the facts, and the psychological using a different cognitive faculties. Then we have the formal, which is the mental act of affirming and denying one thing of another through comparison. Okay, comparing to what? And then we have the legal. Okay, of course, again, the legal trials referring to the final statements and ruling and judgment. So again, even in today's cases, in the legal battles, there's still questions of what is the truth, what is an opinion, what is the fact, and all of this is still very debatable, right? So the judgment is based on what? On opinions of other people. And when I looked at the etymology of the word, it's the same thing. It says that it's a form of opinion. Like I read it over and over and over, and I'm like, why people don't realize how vulnerable we are, and we are placing people in the positions to judge us, to put us in some kind of a situation they place the opinions on us. So again, everything is based on opinions when it comes down to the rulings, right? And people created that system, and someone else more worthy than you choosing your course of life in many cases. So again, in order for us to talk about discernment, we have to talk about what judgment is. Well, if you see that, then we have evolved or devolved, as I like to say. We just have one person who is putting the value of ourselves on some kind of a trial. Again, very disturbing. I know that every single one of us in one point in time felt isolated, excluded in some way or another by judgment, by somebody else's opinion. And that person was influencer, or was it the popular person or person with power? And then they potentially and most likely got the number game, right? So again, you have two things that makes judgment very powerful. And that is somebody in power, somebody who has some credentials to rule in some kind of a harsh opinion, which is judgment. And then you have the number game. The more people, the more energy you have behind it, the more powerful it becomes. And you could see this has been happening for generations, for lifetimes, right? So there's endless stories of judgment followed by punishment based on nothing more than the fear of the unknown. And the unknown most likely are the ones who have the free thinking minds, the one who wants to shake up the system, and they're the ones people fear the most. Even if you think about it as example, as Elvis Presley shaking his hips. I mean, wasn't he the scary one for that generation? What's going to happen next? When we are shaking our hips, and look where we are today. Right. So when we see that people who are the free thinkers are most likely going to be trialed on one way or another by people's opinions, they will be judged. So judgment is a program that is running in us, every single one of us actually, since the first minutes of our life. I thought about that because I'm thinking, so when was the first time we got introduced to some kind of opinions or judgments? And I came all the way down to the first minute of your birth. The first minute they get a test, you get tested from good to excellent, and somebody measures you and to figure out where you are. And of course, the parents want a 10, right? And if you are only 6 or 5, oh my gosh, versus understanding that you are creation of something so much more than some silly tests. But very easily you get stuck in the first 5 minutes into some kind of a box. And then of course, we continuing of being judged with opinions on charts with percentiles. We dragging our children to doctors' offices to measure them. If Johnny is a 70th percentiles in his height and his weight and so on and so forth. And so again, who created these charts? When did they start it? Are they based on the truth? I mean, are we all doing it around the world and we basing our existence on some kind of a percentiles? And then we continue. We continue with our grades in school. Again, where did that came from? Who decided to have a grading system, and who are the teachers? What kind of a charts do they follow in, and who created them? Are they ever changed? And why? Why are we having them in the first place? There have been plenty of studies done that when you do not put children in any kind of a scaling system, they do much better, because they really only want to learn. That's our innate desire to evolve. But are we really evolving when somebody else is putting you in the box? So then it doesn't end. Then we go into credit scores. Okay, how well you do with your money. And if you didn't, oh, well, you have to be punished. Okay, who created that? Please entertain me. Like, who created this credit scores? Again, your whole system as an adult, you are running around credit scores. So we're not going to go into the details, but you know what I'm talking about. And then if it's not the system, then it's just overall us. We judging others by the zip code they live, the car they drive, the people they know. It's all about the name dropping. And then how many people you have on the social media, what kind of influencer are you? And then the biggest one, you know, when you are already getting past all that, is aging. We judging the natural process of beautifully, gracefully aging. Now they call it anti-aging. Okay. So again, we put in a judgment on something so beautiful, so inevitable that we can embrace it with love. But no, we have to put judgment on it and delete any evidence of something that is, again, so natural in our life, right? So again, reminder, judgment is nothing more than opinions of someone. So most likely, just because that program is running so deeply within us, we are probably the biggest judge to ourselves, and we have to stop that. We are constantly judging ourselves, not good enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, and constantly comparing. Remember the comparison, that explanation, same thing. So we have to stop comparing and stop judging ourselves. We are perfect the way we are at this present moment, and be okay with that. So when you judge yourself, inevitably you're going to be judging others, and vice versa. That program has to be somehow brought to the surface to be transmuted. So what I found also very difficult is when you maybe you are that person that do not judge people, like, you know, you find and you don't really care what other people do, but perhaps you judge situations. Maybe you judge the feelings. Maybe you're not judging Stephen because he's a jerk, but maybe you judge the anger that you feel from him. Maybe it is what he does, not him personally. So the actions. So it's very sometimes subtle. We are judging certain groups of people, certain music, certain, you know, potentially countries or friends or neighbors. It doesn't really matter, but it's the idea of unknown mainly, because the judgment is based out of fear, something you can control. You don't know very much about it, so let's just judge it. And the more people we have, the more safer we feel, right? So we have to realize that when we look at the map of consciousness, and I'm not sure if we can pull that up. When we see the map of consciousness, judgment is really on the bottom. And it's one of the lowest vibrations, and it's down there with the shame. Why is it next to a shame? Because if we are making ourselves judged, we feel shamed. We feel shamed the way we feel or we act or what we said or other people. So when we place judgment on someone, we place also the shame. Like, so the shame and judgment is just kind of a dancing partner. It's the tango. So you could see it's right on the bottom, the humiliation. And when judgment is fueled, and most likely, and that's the difference between discernment, judgment is fueled. It's fueled with emotions of envy, emotions of jealousy, of anger. All these judgments become very destructive to people, to organizations, to countries, to whatever. So we have to really be careful of how judgment comes in our lives, very hidden. And one thing is also what's so beautiful about getting away from judgment is that you getting off of the karma wheel. I think that is really the nicest thing of it all. It's that judgment keeps us stuck on the wheel of karma. Why? Because the judgment constantly seeking for revenge, for justice, to have the bad guy and the good guy, and constantly repeating that scenario. Okay, constantly. So if you have a good guy, then you have a bad guy, and constantly looking for revenge. Even if it's not in your own life, you see, drama on TV or in your neighbors or whatever that is, we constantly seeking that kind of a judgment, right? So the way to stop that is to get really fed up, especially if you play in your own karma, when you are the one who are victimized, right? You look at me, and this has been done to me, and then you're looking for everybody's agreeing with you and viewing that situation. And then eventually, hopefully, you get sick of yourself. You're like, okay, enough of that. I'm so sick of myself because nothing is changing in my life. I actually choosing peace. I'm done with the revenge. I'm done with the punishment and recognition. What has been done to me, it has been done for me. And that moment, you create a shift of consciousness. I wish that moment for everyone, because it really is such a freeing, so freeing moment in your life when you just get sick and tired of your own misery. And next thing, and I'm going to end with that subject of judgment, was trying to bring another situation where it would be helpful for people to realize how powerful judgment really is in us and in our bodies, in our emotions, in our thoughts. And I came up with, Alisa, you're probably going to appreciate this because we talked about that when we went through a training, is that when we teach about healing, when we teach about the power of prayer, when we evoke it truly in our hearts, and we not just say, oh, I'm praying for you. No, when we actually take the time and we really feel, and like, I really want to send this healing energy to Mary because she's going through such a hard time. That beautiful prayer, that beautiful intention of sending someone this healing energy, this loving grace, has to go through you first. You benefit from that beautiful feeling that you have just sent to Mary. And when you think about that metaphysical aspect, the same thing is with judgment. When we are judging ourselves, when we judging others, that same vibrational frequency is running through our veins, through our minds, through our vibration, and it's sitting in our aura. So maybe that will make you want to shift things around and becoming really, really aware of how judgment is a old program. It doesn't serve you, doesn't serve me, doesn't serve anyone. It keeps us separated from one another, keeps us distant from one another. And when we understand the oneness, it's definitely, it will not be found in judgment. So that's judgment. And now we can go into discernment. Discernment, just the word discernment. It's so beautiful, so light. And again, when I looked at the dictionary, it explained it this way. It is the quality of being able to grasp and comprehend what is obscure. That's the skill or discerning. The act of perceiving or discerning something that is not easily visible, it's not easily understandable, and it's deal with perceptions and insight. So it's not very close to the intuition. That's what I would say. So I love this. Just talking about that makes me so much more lighter. So it is also says, the power to see what is not evident to the average mind. Wow. Wow. Sign me in. I'm all in. Beautiful. So discernment, very different than judgment, right? So it is the simple observation with the mind of the observer. Again, it's much lighter. It's not attached to the polarized world, and it doesn't take sides. It has no need to fit into any box. And it simply lets everything to just be. It is whatever it is kind of thing. So discernment just sees, discernment knows. It's just sees and knows the invisible. It's things that, it is like, it's the quality of grandparents, I think. It's like, not all of them, but many of them who just rocking in a chair, have that smile like, I know, and let the children, the grandchildren, and everything else to just happen. And they are just in this tremendous peace. That is, to me, the epitome of discernment. Like, everything's just okay. I've been there, done that. And you know what? It's fine. Just let them experience things. Let them just allow to be children. So it's not like you go to a family gatherings and you see here Patrick, your uncle or your brothers acting out, and you're like, oh, here we go. I'm going to be acting like a discernment person. And so, no, that is avoidance. That's very different. So it's not like you want to escape the situation. It's not like, oh, I don't care about Patrick. It's none of that. It is truly seeing Patrick. You understand it is whatever it is. You allow him to be. It doesn't shape you in any way, doesn't trigger you. And it's whatever it is. And you could have a polite conversation or you can walk away. It makes no difference. It doesn't make your heart, the blood pressure high at all. It doesn't move you really. So that is the beautiful a state of mind when you get into that level. So again, it's not avoidance. You also just allow it to be. It's just the seeing, allowing, and don't try to control it because you're not fearing it. You don't fear anything. So discernment is the known to see and not attaching yourself to it. So again, I brought the family, then you can bring it to the politics, right? You have to, in order for you to practice discernment, you really need to know, but you also have to carry a wisdom because you can't do with one or the other. A lot of people say, well, children are wise. Yes, but they didn't necessarily inquire all the knowledge yet, right? So this is something that we need to think about, is that once we know, then we can bring in the compassion because the compassion goes really hand in hand with the wisdom. So the last 2 years, we have obviously experienced a lot of polarization, right? And you could see it was really hard to discern because there was a lot of judgment going on and a lot of people were stuck in the polarized world trying to do good things. And that was really tricky because they were losing their wisdom in righteousness. So they were acting like Puritans. So again, that is not discernment, right? Hiding behind the good-hearted intentions, but with forceful tactics. You have to be very, very observant, seeing things from higher perspective, not literal listening to words of seeing literally what you're looking at. No, it's seeing beyond that and comprehending things that you're necessarily not seeing and witnessing, right? Think about as the freedom of neutrality, the freedom of choice, the freedom to be. You allowing the people to just be, and doesn't move you. Whatever they do doesn't move you. So when you understand that the discernment is based in that knowledge and wisdom, you start seeking the truth. You really want to know because you just are Like, okay, so what is the truth? Where do I go for that? Because you spiral in very often into the polarization, because that's what you think the truth is, because that's what we have been told for so long. We have to find the justice, and we have to find the winners and then the losers and all that. You're not going to find it in polarized world. The truth is based in love. We talked about that in one of our first seminars. So when you are trying to find the truth in polarized world and you won't find it, it's very easy. Go seek up, right? So if you seek the truth in your life, you must embrace love. Embrace all things, because the love embraces all things. Love allows all things. Love trusts all things, and this transcends all things. If you just remember that, it's so freeing. It's a freedom right there. You don't have to do absolutely anything. It's effortlessly deleting all the polarized programs. It's just holding that vision, holding that vibe, holding that frequency. Or just remember this, just remember it, just say it, whatever helps you. But that's where the truth lies, in love. The thoughts of possessing, controlling, or limiting can come only from one who decides to experience that by choice. And again, allowing that, right? So don't forget that certain people will consciously or subconsciously keep choosing to experience the polarized world. So there's a one little catchy part, which again, sneaks on all of us in one point when we are on a spiritual path. And that is where you're trying to practice discernment, and then you are faced with situation that triggers you in some way. And so let me just give you an example. Bully, right? Let's just say you experienced a bullying. If not you, maybe your brother or your sibling or your or someone near you, and you really empathized with that in your early life. And when you're older and you are all, vibrating the discernment, and then you see something like that, or you're witnessing, or you are around a bullying, so you immediately get into polarized world. Well, that's bad. We need to do something about it. Well, this needs to be changed, and so on and so forth. So again, you see how quickly you get polarized into that, right? So is this good or bad? Are you going to be the one who judges that? So this is a very different level of consciousness. There is truth in every level of consciousness. There's not one truth. It's every level. That's where it's like, it's a very hard to give one answer, because you have one answer in polarized world and another answer in that other world of the unity, of the oneness world. And both answers are correct, depends on the level of consciousness that person holds. And trying to convince who's right and who's wrong, again, you get spiraled down into polarized world, because both of them are true. But knowing that you have been potentially triggered, it helps you to see that you have a wound right there to be healed. That's the hook. That's the hook in the polarized world, right? So recognize that, like, okay, I have some healing to do on that subject. And so I cannot necessarily go into discernment and transcend that, because I still have to heal that part of me. So it's a beautiful way. Polarization is helping us to see and feel where we are still have work to do. So again, it's not always just jumping up and then just like, being all holy out there. And another one is resonance. It's all about resonance, really. You will resonate in some way or another with the circumstances you are experiencing until you consciously recognize. And in the end, you simply will let go of the tangle. So again, I'm just bringing back into that scenario of the bullying. So that in that situation, there's some resonance. You were resonating. And it could be even trust. Trust is a really big one because so many of us had been experiencing deceitfulness. Our trust was broken. Our heart were broken, right? So there would be a lot of hooks on that, because who do you the can you trust your spouse? Can you trust your boss, the bank, the government, the teacher, the doctor? That is something that is obviously still in polarized world. So when you embrace these things and you're realizing, okay, I have a lot more to do in this kind of aspect. But this is so beautiful too, is that when you let go of the hurts and you say, okay, you know what, I will trust it. I will go in. I'm going to be very vulnerable because it's very courageous. But here's the key. The minute you sense it, there's something that resonates as the old wound, you have a choice to make. You can sit with it, experience it, and get validated. Yep, I was right. Or you sense it and you leave right away because you trust yourself. That's how you trust. That's how you build trust. First, you have to trust you, and then the trust is built in around you, and then you will inquire energy of trustworthy people, situations, so on and so forth. So everything starts with you. So yes, again, you have choice to make. But that's the beautiful thing, is that when, again, I'm going to repeat this because this is actually kind of complicated situation. So let's just say that you are dealing with trust because you have a heart broken and so on and so forth. And so you're saying to yourself, okay, I am done of not trusting. I want to really believe in people and situations. So you go in and you bring this person in, because you believe in the goodness and so on and so forth. And then you start sensing something is off. And that vibration is very familiar from the past. So you go, okay, I have a choice to make. I can trust that feeling because I don't need to experience it anymore. And I'm going to leave because it's not for my greatest good anymore. Or I will sit with it and now go and play out the situation, get hurt again, get disappointed, experience that, and then I'll try again. You did nothing wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever it is. You see that? So when we allow to see the situation as nothing more as experiences, it's giving us the freedom to be and allowing other people to be and letting them to experience it. Because we often trying to spare our loved ones from going through it, right? Oh, don't go there. They have such a bad food, you're going to have a stomach ache. Okay, well, that was your story. Let them experience it. Maybe they will have a different one. So again, we easily pass on our opinions, our judgments on someone else because we want to spare them from whatever. So again, catching ourselves in those really subtle judgments or opinions, and allow the discernment to play itself out. So again, tangle. If you don't want to tangle, just don't. Simple. Let go of the partner. So discernment, very high level of consciousness. Why? Because you truly awaken at this point and you realize judgment is nothing more than based in a polarized world and keeps you stuck on the wheel of karma. So again, I'm summarizing this. And again, you realize there are in that polarized world, the good guys and the bad guys and the winners and the losers. And they just keep us separating. Sports are built in separation. It built with competition and somebody has to be better than the other. I'm not saying don't participate. I'm just bringing awareness to it. And again, it's beautiful because you simply understand that we are so much more than physical bodies. We're so much more, and we desire so much more than the physical manifestation of experiencing things. There's a world beyond that. So there's no need to blame, feel victimized, or deflect, the hot potatoes we talked about last time. There's no need for it, really. Each of these examples are just simply keep moving on the wheel. Like, again, get off of it or stay on it. But I like to end with this because it's that brought me kind of like the aha moment, is that, children do not judge. They right away experience, or practicing discernment. They're very curious. They have very curious mind. They just observe and they take it in and they allow, they accept, and they love. Especially, again, if you're parents, you know what I'm talking about. How many times you screwed up as a parent and you wish you didn't do or say things, and the child will love you unconditionally. They will forgive you in split second. That doesn't even hold on to them. It's just like Teflon, just goes right off. So let's be like the children. That's like one of the easiest way to explain discernment. Just be like the children. So that's it for today. I know there was a long talk, but I feel that it's very, very important before we go into the alchemy of consciousness, because we will talk about all of this, and at least we're going to have some kind of a basis of that. So here you go, Lisa.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. And I think a lot for us to think about as we wait for the next step. Thank you very much. And we will see you at the next presentation in
Sounds
the next
good, Lisa.
time.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Lisa. Talk to you later.